Okay, welcome to our Tanya Inside Out shir. We are up to Perek Lamed Gimel, Achinas Lag Ba'omer, chapter 33. Okay, I've called the chapters don't have they don't have titles, but everyone gives them their own titles. I've called it The Joy of Divine Dwelling. So just as a quick recap up until now, the way the Sefer breaks down, is it's the tachlis of Masuda, Mamash. The way they basically explain it is from Perek 1 to 8 is giving you the lexicon of all the words we're going to be using and basically describing the pieces of creation. Okay, we learn what Klippa is, we learn what Kedusha is, we learn what the Nefesh of Bahamas, the Nefesh of Akis is, we learn what a Jew is, we learn what Torah is, we learn what mitzvahs are. We get all the groundwork done. I mean, you could literally spend your life learning chapters 1 to 8 because really everything's in there. From then on, it's just putting it all together. But that's like the getting the ingredients together. Okay, from chapter 9 till 9 through 15 is the discussion on the different ways of how they fit together, the Benoni, the Rasha, the Tzaddik, and how all the pieces interact. Okay, from chapters 16 and 17 are their own unit, and they're basically describing what our long-term goal is. The avodah of the Jew in this world is not behavioral perfection. That's just taken for granted. That you're going to be perfect and your thought, speech, and action is just a given. Yeah. So the avodah of the Yid in this world, assuming that your thought, speech, and action is always aligned with mitzvah and never with avera. Now the avodah of the Jew in the world is to now get the internal world aligned with the Avodah Shalom. So you're not going against the grain to behave correctly. There's no, you have to behave correctly. It's just like in marriage. You can't be horrible to your wife. You just can't. So, but maybe you want to be, maybe you feel like being horrible to her. It's not, it's non-negotiable. Yeah, being horrible to her is not negotiable. Yeah, but the feeling inside, now that, we're working on that. So that's what it is. That's really how we should see it in Yiddishkeit. The behavioral perfection is not negotiable. That's just expected, and that's expected. Now the avodah, which the Rebbe explains, is now let's work on making this easy for ourselves. This shouldn't be a torturous uphill battle, where we're just constantly smashing and fighting ourselves. Let's get involved in the right information. Let's connect to the right people, and let's change our inner world so that this behavioral perfection isn't a hassle and a schlep, and it becomes, let's enjoy it. Why not? We're here, we're here for the long game, so we might as well enjoy it. That's chapters 16, 17. Chapters 18 to 25 is basically when things aren't going to plan and we're still waiting for the emotions to sink in. 18 to 25 basically he reminds you about the essence of your soul, that you'll give up your life for God. And then he creates a binary, he gives us a binary way of looking at reality, which is basically everything's either avera or mitzvah. There is no middle ground. And another word for avera is avodah zarah. So just like you would rather give up your life than bow to an idol, so kal v'chomer, eating that piece of tray food or saying that lashon hara is also avodah zarah. So if you would give up your life for avodah zarah, then for sure you would let go of some little pleasure that you can give up on a little pleasure so that you won't be over avodah zarah. It's like the guy who comes, the guy in the office who, you say to him, would you give up your life for your kids? He says, yeah. He says, well, why don't you spend any time with them? He's like, that's a good question. Yeah, just have some integrity. If your kids are worth giving your life up for, then Like the famous quote, no one's ever on their deathbed saying, I wish I spent more time in the office. Yeah, exactly. So if you're prepared to give up your life for them, if they're so important to you, then spend some time with them. Then we went into chapters 26, and we're basically finishing. There's a shlav from chapters 26 to 34, which is all about simcha. And I mean, a lot of it's a bit depressing because it's about breaking, it's about breaking depression by using, so to speak, by using Shviras Halev and different techniques. But this all forms one whole. Basically, from 26 to 31 is details on how to break free from depression and to become joyful, to become simchadik. Perek Lamed Beis, we went through very quickly, but that's the most famous perek in Tanya. Perek Lamed Beis is about Avos Yisrael, which basically says, Al Regel Achas, that if you identify with yourself as a Yid and not as your personality, which we are prone to do, then you will end up loving all Jews. Because if you love your Yiddishkeit, if you love the Yisrael in you, then you love the Yisrael in every Yid. And that's a segula nifla to love all Jews, meaning disassociate and disidentify with your unique personality and get involved in re-identifying with yourself as a neshama. And once you start valuing the Yisrael in you, then you'll start to value the Yisrael in every other Yid, and that's a segula nifla for Avos Yisrael. Okay, now we join you, Perek 33. 33, the Rebbe mentions the concept of Dira B'Tachtonim. Now, chapters 35, 36, 37 really deal with Dira B'Tachtonim. Yeah, explaining what it means, Hashem's dwelling place and his dwelling in the lower worlds. Okay, but here we bring it, and it's still connected to simcha. We're not just discussing the philosophical existential understandings of Dir B'Tachtonim. We're understanding Dir B'Tachtonim in regards to how it can bring us simcha. Okay, so that's where we're going now. So on one foot, this whole chapter is basically saying that the deeper we can understand Yichud Hashem, the more simcha we're going to have. Getting a visceral understanding or experiential feeling of Yichud Hashem will bring us to simcha. Okay, well, just in time, Avi. So there's a book that I recommend. For any of you hardcore people, this is called The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. It's by a guy called Rupert Spira. You can check him out online. He's a really good guy. Okay, I don't think he's Jewish. This book, if you can stick with it, is the most profound what do you call it? Not dealing with the most profound what's the word? To deal with something, not analysis. What's the word? When you deal with something? Whatever. It's a very profound that word, treatment of Yichud Hashem. It's mamash peladik. It's very, very boring and very long and philosophical, but it is a really, really good treatment of Yichud Hashem. Give you very big ideas into Yichud Hashem. Yichud Hashem, he calls it non-duality. Okay, so the beginning of the perek we discuss what it means Yichud Hashem, and this is what we're going to discuss now for a little bit with a couple of mashalim. So the point is, why is Yichud Hashem a segula to come to joy? Because the more real Hashem becomes to you, meaning the more exclusive he becomes to you, it's like you're turning a dial. the more he becomes one, the more you become zero. That's basically what happens. That's why Yichud Hashem, when you start getting clearer and clearer on Yichud Hashem, your problems start to become less and less relevant because you have started to become less and less relevant. And when there's no you, there's no problems. But when we say there's no you, don't get all like, oh no, it's all like, it doesn't mean like what everyone says. We know by now, yeah? No you just means you stop relating to yourself as something fragmented from reality. You're just as much a part of reality as reality. You're not a separate thing. You're not an independent thing. You're bound up in the oneness of everything, just like everything else. So it's not like you don't exist. It's you do exist, but you exist in context. And when we get that really clear, then all of our troubles start to become much, much less intense, and to the point where they actually start to dissolve, because if there's no one to have any troubles, then there's no troubles. That's a very high madrigal. It's a sliding scale, but that's the basic idea, is as we get more and more cognizant that Hashem is everything, then we start to become more cognizant of the fact that my egoic self or my fragmented, splintered personality is less relevant. And that's really the mechanics of how it works. So a very important idea that we're going to come to is that to say that Hashem is close is really inaccurate, and it does an injustice to the reality. Hashem is not close. Hashem is not close to you. There is, by saying Hashem is close to me, that's implying that there's me and Hashem. That's already starting off on the wrong leg. You're made of Hashem like everything else. You are of Hashem. You're not close to him. There's not you and him. You're of him. So to say you're close to him, I'll tell you one thing that I know people say not like this, but I'm going to say, I believe this strongly. The idea of screaming out to Hashem, I think, is a very damaging, maybe there's a certain kind of person that could need it, maybe, but in general, to scream out to God, I think is a damaging thing to do. Actually scream out. Why? Because you ever have your kids like sit next to you, scream at you, and you're like, I'm right next to you, please stop. Yeah, like I I'm in Israel with Hasidic kids, yeah, so literally the default thing is, I'm a DJ, and I'm like, I'm right next to you, please. When you scream out, why would you scream to somebody if they're right next to you? So the screaming itself implies that there's a massive distance, but it doesn't. When someone's next to you, you can still be in tsar and talk in a way that expresses your tsar. But the thing of screaming out, it puts Hashem far from you. So I've never heard somebody give me a way around that. That for me is a
listen. The Stalin Rebbe, one of the Karliner Rebbes, they asked, why are you screaming? Hashem, you think Hashem can't hear you? He said, no, I know Hashem can hear me. I can't hear myself.
So in regards to like tefillah, when you're screaming out praises of Hashem, that's a little bit different. But when you're in a personal percussion, when you scream,
somebody asked the Stalin Rebbe, why do you scream in davening? He said, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, why doesn't everyone else scream in davening? The goal is to arouse your kavana. I hear your point. It's well taken, but it's really just for you. It's a tool to get yourself into it. It's chagat chassidus.
Yeah, but it doesn't get out of my problem in that it actually creates a distance. When you're screaming to somebody, it's creating the. I hear what you're saying. It arouses you. Yeah, for sure, it arouses you.
That's why we're silent in Shemon Esrei and loud in Pesukei Zimra. It's about arousing yourself. You're not talking to Hashem in Pesukei Zimra.
Look, yeah, but it's not, it's singing praises to Hashem. That should be loud for sure, for sure. But I'm just the Indian of screaming to God. I mean, the Tanya says it as well. He says how he's like screaming out, like the ones say Abba Abba. He talks about it quite, but that like I was saying, there's people who say not like this, but this is my own thing. Anyway, the point is that to say that Hashem is close is a concession to your own reality. And I don't think that's so helpful. The idea is that Hashem is not close. Hashem is much, much closer than that. We are of Hashem. We are of him. There's not
the Tanya, isn't it based on the pasuk of Ki Karov? So how do you type that up?
Ki Karov Alecha Davar Ma'od. Absolutely. Ki Karov Hadavar. Well, it says Ki Karov Hadavar Alecha. It's not that Hashem's Karov. Is Ki Karov. I mean, there are psukim of Hashem being Karov, but the point is, this is referring. This is what the Tanya calls Kirvas Elokim. When you get cognizant of the fact that you are of Hashem, that's how close you are to Him. You're made of Him. That's called Kirvas Hashem. That's called closeness to God. So I was just being pedantic in my analysis of the Lashon. But the Indian of Kirvas Hashem is that you go beyond this concept of that He is close to me and that I am of Him. That's called real Kirvas Hashem. Now he brings two famous analogies that we're going to discuss a little bit. These are basically meditations. And this book, The Nature of Consciousness by Spira, he really helps you like cogitate, is that the word? I think cogitate is the word on this, where it can become visceral, where it can become really real. Like this is the whole thing, is we're meant to get these inyanim so clear, using the right mashalim, investing the right amount of energy, getting things clear, giving it over to people, talking it out with people, discussing it, arguing it, hearing, and identifying and the more real it becomes, that's when it actually becomes visceral in you and it starts to become a reality. And that's called Kirvas Hashem, and that brings you simcha. That is mamash, that mamash brings you simcha. When you're cognizant of the fact that you're in the Rebbeinu Shalom, like one of the, let's do like this. Let's everyone. Well, let's do a little meditation for a couple of minutes just to get the idea, okay? We're going to close our eyes for a minute, okay? If you want to breathe and stuff, you can do that another time. We're just going to close our eyes. Okay, now I want everybody to picture a Tesla, okay? Because everyone knows what a nice Tesla looks like. Okay, picture a metallic red Tesla in your mind's eye. Okay, get it clear in your mind. Have your eyes closed. I got my eyes closed, so I can't see. Have it clear in your mind. A beautiful like cherry red Tesla. Yeah, you see the handles. The little pus, like the little flat lines of the handles, and the beautiful contours of the whole body. It's shiny. It's in the sun, mamish. It's sparkling, and you peer inside, and it's like the light tan leather with that big screen in the middle. And the steering wheel is like that nice Tesla steering. When you look around, the whole thing's very clear. It's very real, yeah? Is everybody clear? I can't see, so just say yes if you've got it clear in your head, yeah? You got the image clear in your head. It's all very mamash real, clear in your head. Okay, now let go. Open your eyes. And Tesla's gone. That Tesla was very real, but it existed in the fabric of your mind. The minute you let go of the thought, the Tesla's gone. There's no Tesla. So how far was the Tesla from you? You with me? For those of you driving, I don't expect you to have done that. But I think everyone understands that that Tesla existed in your mind 100%. And it was very clear. Everything was all the details were mamash clear. But it was of the fabric of your mind. It was in your mind. That's how we exist, Kaviyachol, in the Rebbeinu Shalom. We exist within the fabric of his mind. We are not something other than him. Like a picture on the screen, this guy Spira. he uses the LCD screen the whole time. A picture on the screen gives you the illusion that there's something, but there isn't. Hashem is the screen. Everything's within the screen. It's not like a real, it's a completely dependent reality that has no mamashos of its own whatsoever. So the two mashalim the Rebbe gives is the concept of speech. Okay, speech is emotions or intellect enclosed within letters. Okay, anybody has a 1-year-old child here or grandchild? Everyone remembers what a 1-year-old is like? Yeah, so a 1-year-old wants something and he goes like that, yeah? No words, because he doesn't have language. Maybe a 1-year-old's like a 6-month-old. A 6-month-old will want the pacifier, will want the candy, yeah, but doesn't have any language. So the want is still there. The want is beyond language. Feelings, want is for sure beyond language, but even feelings and intellect beyond language. How do we know this? You don't love someone in Spanish or in French or in English or in Hebrew. Love transcends letters. When I say to you, I love you, okay, I've enclosed my feeling of love within letters. So midas, the emotions of the soul, are without letters. They are just energies. Even more so, the intellect of the soul, the idea of 2 times 2 = 4, yeah? Everybody understands that in the exact same way. In Russia, in China, in Puerto Rico, in Israel, in London, even in LA. Everybody understands 4 times 4 = 16 in the same way. They will use different words to represent the concepts. But just like love and emotions are without language, even more so, concepts are without language. Abstract concepts, that's why they're called abstract concepts. We bring them into language and we can give analogies, mashalim for them, but they're beyond language. So where did the words come from? When you're speaking, when I say to you, I love you, what happened there? What happened is that my love for you became enclosed in those 8 letters in that certain order, and they left me and they came over to you. But they existed inside me. In my love for you, those letters existed, merged, absolutely merged with the love, with the emotion. That's what he says, because when Hashem speaks, see, when we speak, our words leave our mouth and become realities unto themselves. But there is no place for words to leave Hashem. So Hashem's words are like, his words are like the state in us pre-language. Just by the emotions or just by the intellect, where there are no letters and it's all one. That's how we exist in the Rabbeinu Shalom. Then we have the other analogy, which is also tremendously profound, which Spira talks about a lot as well, actually, which is the moshel of the sun and the rays of the sun. What is the ray? If you look through your window in the morning or whatever, like in Donny's room right now, yeah? Donny, if your room was to, if you were to like put some smoke in your room, yeah? The way the sun's coming in, you'll see like rays of light. What's the relationship of a ray of light to the sun itself? So,
Byproduct of the sun.
what? What'd you say?
It's the byproduct of the sun.
A byproduct of the sun.
Saying it's the byproduct of the sun.
You could say like that. You definitely wouldn't say it's something that the sun creates. The
The
sun,
expression of the sun.
exactly. It's an emanation of the sun. It's not separate from the sun. So by definition, if I was to put a break between the sun and the ray vanishes by definition. That would stop the ray. The rays is absolutely dependent on the sun. It's a completely dependent reality that cannot be severed from the sun. It will stop existing. The minute I put a break between the ray and the sun, it's gone, finished.
Well, the ray still has some time to travel after the sun is extinguished. We'll still see that light. It is separate from the sun. The sun shoots it out, and it travels through space and time.
I have to think about that. Intuitively, I think that that's not correct, because that's just from our perspective, the fact that the ray keeps going. But I hear the point. Let's think about that. But the point of what the Rebbe takes this towards. So if Gavriel's right, it doesn't affect the actual how the Rebbe treats this. That the Rebbe basically says, trace that ray back to the sun, and now try and find the ray in the sun itself. That ray is you can even put a little circle around it on the floor. You could measure it. You could measure how hot it is. You could measure how bright it is. You could draw around it, like I said, etc. It's a very specific thing, but it doesn't exist in the sun. It only exists when the sun isn't there. That's by definition. So that's what he says. It's the ray of sun in its source, where it comes from, is non-existent. It doesn't exist. And that's, again, another analogy that he gives us to be misboinen on, that will get you cognizant of your relationship to reality. And like I said, Spira, who wrote this book in, I think, 2016, something like that, 1 second, around that time, 2017, he brings other moshalim that are, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but they are maybe even more helpful to get cognizant of this concept of non-duality. Okay, the concept of a human being playing the role of another human being, or the idea, this is a good one, of imagine you have a dream. Okay, Yitzi, you're having a dream, yeah, and Yitzi, you're dreaming that you're Shlomo, you're Shlomo in Yerushalayim. Yitzi is having a dream that he's Shlomo in Yerushalayim. Yitzi is curled up in bed in LA, and he's having a dream that he is Shlomi in Yerushalayim. Now, in you, see, when you have a dream, there's you in the dream, yeah? So Yitzi, you're walking around Yerushalayim, you see the old city, you see the citadel, you see all the stuff, and there's you seeing it. But really, that's all happening in you. You become an avatar in your own dream, that you've created the landscape. The landscape also exists in your head. So there aren't two things. And that's how Spira explains Yichud Hashem, in that it's like Hashem. See, one thing's very important, yeah? I've never seen literally anywhere in all of my learning, reality in Yiddishkeit referred to as a dream, ever. It's referred to as a thought, a speech, never a dream. Yeah, so he refers to it as a dream. So the problem with dream is it smacks of mikra, of randomness, and of lack of importance. So we don't say that at all. But we can understand it as an intentional thought, that the Rabbeinu Shloim is intentionally thinking this whole world into being, and he creates avatars for himself, so to speak. In the Moshel, it's Yitzi is the Rabbeinu Shloim, and his avatar is Shlomi, walking through Yerushalayim. But the whole thing exists in Yitzi's reality. There aren't two things. It just appears from the perspective of Shlomi in the dream that there's two things. But in reality, there aren't two things at all because everything's merged with a oneness in the mind of the creator. Is that clear? We could be, but you should think about this stuff. The point is, I just threw out some food for thought. These ideas are meant to be thought about. Yeah, like in the morning, when I'm walking, I live in an apartment building. So when I walk down the stairwell and through the corridor, I feel like I'm kind of walking through like the furrows of the Ribbono Shel Olam's mind. Like you know how the brain is all creased and folded and like tubes and stuff. So you can think things like that. That's helpful. Those ideas are helpful, that you exist within him. You exist within him in a complete unity, in a complete oneness. And that is a segula nifla for simcha. And when you get that viscerally, when that becomes real to you, yeah, that's called Kirvas Hashem, according to the Tanya. Kirvas Hashem is not a warm, fluffy feeling, according to Tanya, the way I understand it. Kirvas Hashem is coming to a deep, visceral recognition of reality. That's called Kirvas Hashem. And then you don't even want to scream out. You say thank you. You don't even, there's nothing to ask for. You just say, you just endlessly, you just say thank you endlessly. You don't even need anything. Just thank you and help me serve you. Those are the only words that come out of your mind when you get really, really connected to the yichud of reality. What else is there to say? Thank you and let me live in line with this reality. Okay, what's the kesher between Yichud Hashem and Dir B'Tachtonim? Because really, in reality, they're one inyan. Now, Dir B'Tachtonim, everyone's heard the phrase Dir B'Tachtonim before? You have any kesher with Chabad ever? You would have heard those words, Dir B'Tachtonim. Hashem was misaver, he desired a reasonless desire to have a dwelling place in the lower realms. But Dir B'Tachtonim smacks of like a pnimia, like a dormitory, a dira. Yeah, it's like a dorm. It doesn't mean that at all. It means a marriage. It means a home. Dira means a relationship between a man and wife that takes place in the home. That's what the home is for. The home is there for the man and the wife. So Dira is not talking about just having a house at all. It's talking about having a home for Hashem. And now listen to the subtlety and the beauty of this, of how this works, is that what's it called? What's a successful marriage? Anyone wants to throw out what we would call an expression of a successful marriage? When has it been that a husband and wife have been successful?
When they each want to do more for the other than for themselves.
I could have said it better myself. When the ratzon of the other shkoyach, when the other's reality becomes more real to you and more urgent than your own reality. Now you've become a successful spouse. That's like, wow, so far, but that is what I've understood from my Rebbe. That is what marriage is. When your spouse is more real to you than you are to yourself. Meaning that you put their ratzon before your ratzon, and that's really how marriage is built, is that the traditional way of how it should be, is the man earns the money, he gives his wife life, and the woman makes the home, she gives the man life. So you're both giving each other their most essential ratzon, which is life. You provide her with life by way of parnasa, and she provides you with life by way of turning that parnasa into food and clothes and shelter, etc. So the marriage is set up, the traditional marriage is set up that you can be caring for her ultimate need, which is to live. And she is taking care of your ultimate need, which is to live. That's the traditional setup of marriage. So now what's the kesher between Yichud Hashem and Dir B'Tachtonim? And it's like this. Your wife should not be in your mind the best woman in the world. Your wife is the only woman in the world. Big difference. It's not that she's the best, it's that there are no other women. So it comes out, I just had a shift with Manis the other day. It comes out that if a person's really worked properly with it, he's done the job, and his wife knows that she's the only woman in the world for him, he could come home and say, we got this new secretary at work and she's mamish gorgeous. He could come and say that, and she wouldn't have a problem with that. Oi. Just happened there. Not that you should say that. Not that you should say that. But that she wouldn't feel threatened in any way. She would say something, well, that's great for the business. Baruch Hashem. It wouldn't be see, if a man's married to his wife because she's beautiful, that's called an avatalui b'dava. Then someone comes along who's more beautiful, now there's a big problem. But the way marriage works is it doesn't matter if there's another woman who's more intelligent, who's more beautiful, who's more thoughtful, who's funnier, who's got a nicer personality. All of these different things are irrelevant because your wife is exclusive. That's what it means, Hayat Mukudeshes Li. That's why you say, Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvoisav. We are exclusive to him and he's exclusive to us. So getting clear, Yichud Hashem means there is only one. There's only one. It's like it's not like God is, well, my computer's going weird. It's not like God is the best and the most powerful and the most infinite. He's all there is. That's marriage. That's a marriage. That's why we're so hell-bent on this whole thing about Shema Hashem Hashem Echad. That's why Yichud Hashem is the central, it's the central pillar, Amud, of Yiddishkeit, because it's a marriage. And now we're saying with all of our heart, there is no other God. Not that you're the God of gods and you're the best God and you're the most profound reality, is that's all there is. That's Dir B'Tachtonim. Everyone's clear on that? That was worth getting up for this morning. That's a very, very important thing to know. So the central message of Yiddishkeit is Yichud Hashem, not just stum as some kind of cute philosophical thing, like the way Spira goes into it for the cute philosophicalness of it. Yeah, he likes that's not what we're about. We want to get this clear in our mind because then we'll realize there's nothing else here. There's no other purpose for being here. There's nothing else to serve. Not that this is the best service and like, you know, golf is also good, but this is better. No, there is nothing else. That's the Dir B'Tachtonim. That's why Yichud Hashem and Dir B'Tachtonim are completely, really one concept. And it's amazing how practical it is. Well, it's the same with everything that's profound and true, is it's always ridiculously practical, because this is exactly how a relationship with our wife should be. It's not that she's the best, not that she's the most amazing, that she's all there is. I mean, the paradigm marriage was Adam and Chava, and that was really the case. It was only Adam and there was only Chava. That's how it's meant to be. Yeah. So now, again, we're going to do something really special here. This is the way the Rebbe does this. Is so sophisticated, so beautiful. So the lower simcha is there's what I've called it the lower and the higher simcha. He doesn't use those words. That's just my words. So the simcha comes from, I now have the opportunity to serve him. Isn't that a tremendous simcha? That's a tremendous simcha. I have the opportunity now to serve him. And even more than that, I did nothing to deserve it. It was like a lottery that I won. I just got given this schus of being Jewish by my parents. I didn't do anything. So it's like, it's like winning the lottery, a tremendous simcha that I've got the opportunity to serve him, and I did nothing to deserve it whatsoever. So that's a source of tremendous simcha. But then he goes on and he says, that's great. And that is great. And it's important to think like that as well. But that's just the lower simcha. The higher simcha is the Rebbe turns around and says, Sadik ve'emunaso yichya. It's the difference between, and we've said this before, but this is where we learn it from, is the difference between the two brothers, the two children, one who wants to bring his father the slippers and the one who wants his father to have the slippers. The Tanya is trying to push us to become the second child. The first thing we said is it's a tremendous simcha that I'm zocher to serve Hashem. That's beautiful. That's amazing. But that's all about me. The next stage is to join Hashem in his simcha and to get simcha from the fact that he's besimcha in the fact that you're helping him fulfill his plan. Not that you're besimcha that you're helping him, that you're besimcha that he's besimcha. That's a complete 180 in how you're seeing reality. Originally, I'm looking at reality through my eyes, and I'm grateful and happy that I can serve God. Now I've moved my perspective to his eyes, and I'm happy that he's happy. That's the difference between the child who wants to bring his father the slippers and the child who wants his father to have the slippers. It comes out by the first kid who wants to bring his father the slippers. If the other kid brings the slippers, it's a little bit uncomfortable because I wanted to bring in the slippers. But by the second kid who wants his father to have the slippers, if the first kid brings in the slippers, he's just as besimcha as if he bought the slippers, because his perspective is from the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's the movement to the higher simcha. Now, what the Rebbe says here, again, we've said this a lot of times, but we'll finish on this point, which is the tachlis of the shir, I think. I'm going to read inside. He brings like this. This is what the sages said in Sechtas Makos. Tayag mitzvahs nitna Yisrael. 613 mitzvahs are given to Yisrael. But Chavukuk va'amidan al achas. Chavukuk came and he stood them, important lashon, al achas, on one. Yeah? Shne'emar, as the famous chazal is, v'tzadik ve'emunasoi yichya. The tzaddik in his emunah lives, koloima. Now this is the Rebbe explaining. Ke'ilu einu rak mitzvah achas. It's like there's only one mitzvah. Hiya emunah levada, which is emunah levada. What emunah means, emunah in Yichud Hashem. Ki oyedei emunah levada, that through emunah levada, yavoy lekiyim kol tayag mitzvahs. We come to be makayim kol tayag mitzvahs. Why is the kid called a bar mitzvah? Why don't we call him a bar mitzvos? A 13-year-old, you should call him a bar mitzvahs. He's a son of mitzvahs, not a bar mitzvah, singular. Shouldn't call him bar, should call him Ben. But anyway, let's forget about that. That's a different thought. We call him a bar mitzvah. Why singular? He's now a son of mitzvos. So this is it's like, I think we've said this before, I'm going to say it again. When a person wants to be a good husband, yeah, we've said this before. Anyway, we'll say it again. A person wants to be a good husband, yeah. What's the criteria for being a good husband? There's loads of stuff. Okay, you have to pay the mortgage, you have to take out the trash, you have to feed the goldfish, you have to clean the window, whatever your shtick is, whatever you have to do, yeah? Being a good husband is about a checklist of lots of different things. But being a good husband is about me. It's not about my wife. See, the goal is to mature from wanting to be a good husband to being focused on your wife. The goal is to mature from wanting to be a good father to becoming exclusively focused on your children. That's, go on, Chaim, say that to everyone.
Hi,
It's my son.
nice to see you.
So, becoming a husband is about stopping trying to be a good husband and becoming exclusively focused on your wife. Being a good parent is about stopping trying to be a good parent and becoming exclusively focused on your children. When it's about being a good parent, there's a checklist of all these different avoiders. When it's about being a good husband, there's a checklist of all these different avoiders, yeah? When it becomes about the wife, there's just one. Oh, in this situation, my wife is expressed, her need is expressed by me paying the mortgage. In this situation, my wife is expressed by me putting my dirty socks in the laundry basket. In this situation, my wife is expressed as me cleaning my plate after I had my dinner. There's not these endless avoiders. There's just my wife. And she manifests in this situation like this. She manifests in this situation like this, in this situation like this. Everyone's with me? That's Tzadik be'emunasoi yichye. There's only the Rebbeinu Shalom. There isn't Shmir Sanayim and Shmir Salosha, Sifas Belimud, and Ian B'Tefillah, and Avodas Achila, and Avodas Tzedakah, and Shalom Bayis, and v'chule, all these endless checklists of things. How good a Yid are you? Well, today I was great with Shmir Sanayim. Today I was great with Shmir Sabris. Today I was great with Shmir Saloshem. Today I was great with my Taivas Achila. Today, the tick, 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 tick. What about reorienting yourself to getting reality clear? That there's only the Rebbeinu Shalom. Oh, look, there's a gorgeous woman walking in front of you. Yeah, it's not, okay, now I'm going to practice Shmir Sanayim. It's the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want me to look at her. The Rebbeinu Shalom becomes manifest, and then I turn my eyes away, as opposed to this separate kind of avoider of Shmir Sanayim. The Shmir Sanayim. It's another thing that I have to deal with. It's another thing. So I wrote like this. This is a good way of saying it. When one shifts his focus to his wife, he stops experiencing four things and starts to experience one person. The four things I wrote here is pays the mortgage, washes his plate, buys his wife flowers, and mows the lawn. As we can move our focus to our wife, those four things get replaced by one person. And those 613 mitzvahs get replaced by one God. That's Tzadik be'emunasoi yichye. And that's called a dir b'tachtonim, which is marriage. That's called becoming married to the Rebbeinu Shalom, not being married to your avodah, not being married to your striving for excellence, but being married to Him. Be'ezus Hashem. So it ends up. See, what does the Rebbeinu Shalom really want? His deepest desire is to turn darkness into light. And that's what we're doing. In everything, all the avoiders that we're doing, we're really turning the darkness of this world, which obscures Hashem, into a burning fire. A Yid, the Balatanya Paskins, that a Yid who's doing a mitzvah, you have to stand up in his presence. Mamash halacha l'maisa. You should, when you see a Yid putting on tefillin, you should stand up. Why? Because you're not seeing a Yid putting on tefillin. You're seeing the Ribono Shel Olam manifest in his world. It's amazing. You just see a Yid with a couple on. A Yid with a couple on, a Ben Yisrael walking through the street with a couple and tzitzis. You're seeing the Ribono Shel Olam entering into his world, a portal opening, and the Or Hashem pouring into Olam Hazeh. That's called turning the darkness into light. And that's his ultimate, that's what he's all about. And that's the deal b'tachtonim, putting that before any other shtick that I've got. And so just to quote the, that's also, by the way, another way of referring to that is called turning the Rishusa, transforming the Rishusa Rabim into a Rishusa Yochid. The Rishusa Rabim is the Klipa, Rabim, Loshen Harbe. Yeah, Rishusa Yochid, Loshen Yochid, Loshen Echad. That's the avoider of the Ben Adam, is to turn the Rishusa Rabim into a Rishusa Yochid. That's what we're here to do. So I'll just finish off by quoting the Rebbe here. V'zer shekosov, Yismach Yisrael ba'oisav. Yisrael is happy in its maker. Not in its ability to serve its maker, but Yisrael is happy in its maker. Perush. Shekol mishahu mezer Yisrael. Every Yid. Yesho lismoyach b'simchas Hashem. He has the schus of being besimcha in Hashem's simcha. Not that I'm zeicha to serve you, but that you're besimcha, Ribono Shel Olam, you're besimcha. That's my simcha. Asher sas v'samach b'dirasa b'tachtonim. That Hashem is sas v'samach in his dir b'tachtonim. That's my simcha. Ribono Shel Olam, you're happy. I'm happy. Oh, he made you happy. It wasn't me who made you happy. Lo echpat li. You're happy. That's all I care about. It's like with your kids. I mean, it's real. It's just normal. Do you care that you made your kids happy or somebody else made your kids happy? You're happy that your kids are happy. There's nothing worse than seeing your kids miserable, you know? So when your kids are happy, who cares? You made them happy. Your wife made them happy. Imagine how crum that actually is. I've heard of that before, where a wife would be, or the husband would be jealous of the wife, or wife jealous of the husband because they're the one who makes the kids happy. You hear that? That's so corrupt. You know, I mean, it could happen. You can understand it happening, but when you're understanding it deeply, you care about the kids' happiness. Who cares how they got happy? That's about me. It's about him. And so he finishes off by saying, Yeshua Yismach b'simchas Hashem. It says, Sas v'samach b'dirasa b'tachtonim. Shem b'chinas asiyah gashmias mamash. That's our whole avoider. Our whole avoider is by getting clear on the fact that there's nothing other than the Ribono Shel Olam, that we are exclusively his, and he's exclusively ours as well. That's Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li. He feels the same way to us as we do to him. And that's called a marriage. That's called dir b'tachtonim. And when we're putting his needs above our needs, because his needs are more real to us than our needs, then he comes into his world and he turns, what happens is the darkness of the Klipa of the Rishusa Rabim turns into light, turns into Rishusa Yochid, and that mamash puts the biggest smile on his face you could ever imagine. And that's our simcha, that the Ribono Shel Olam is b'simcha. Not that we made him b'simcha. That's another thing, and that's important to be aware of because we are human beings as well. But the Yiddish simcha is the fact that Ribono Shel Olam's b'simcha. Bezrat Hashem, we should be zeicha to see the real Hashem's, the completion of his simcha mamash.
Amen.
Amen. Shkoyach.
Okay.
Amen. Thank
What
you.
pair was this?
That was Perek Lamed Gimel, Lag BaOmer, B'chinas Rabbi Shimon. Any questions?
How many
Yeah,
times
what-
did Avi go in and out this year?
What did you title the shir? The joy of?
I entitled the share The Joy of Divine Dwelling.
Shkoyach.
But I'll tell you just as a very quick thing, I don't know if you know, the Lubavitcher Rebbe created these, they called them the 12 psukim. You ever saw this? He chose 12.
Not familiar.
Oh, if it's, I haven't, oh, I haven't. I actually,
Yeah, they all memorize them.
yeah, the kids memorized them. The Rebbe's 12 psukim.
Torah, Tivalon, and Moshe.
It's Rosh Shema Yisrael, B'chol Dor V'Dor, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelek Lam Haba. He took 4 from Tanakh. He took 4 from Chazal. And he took 4 from Tanya. And 2 of them from Tanya came from Perek Lamed Gimel. I'll just quickly read you the two ones here. The first one is V'zeh kol ha'adam v'tachlis b'riyasoi. This is the entire man and the purpose for what she was created. U'bris kol ha'elamas elyonim v'tachtoinim, and the creation of all the worlds higher and lower. Liyois lo deri yizbrach zoi b'tachtoinim. Zu b'tachtoinim. That there should be, that he should have a dir b'tachtoinim. K'moish yizbar l'kama brichas. That's number 1. So one of the psukim is that Hashem should have a dir b'tachtoinim, and number 2 is, and this is what we just put a big emphasis on, Yismach Yisrael ba'oisav. Yisrael should be besimcha in its maker, will be besimcha in its maker, perish. Shekol mishum mizer Yisrael. Every yid, yesh lo lismoach besimchas Hashem. Asher sas v'samcha d'yasa b'tachtoinim. That you are happy in his happiness. That's really called becoming, that's our goal. That's our goal, that we are happy for him because he's happy. Okay.
Shkoyach.
Shakoyach. Oh, by the way, just as a quick thing, Parsha share this week, I'm going to England to visit my parents for Shabbos. So I'm going to give the Parsha share Blineda at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, LA time. If you're interested in coming along. Okay. Kol tov, everyone.